Hello teachers, my name is Mr. Russell and I teach 6th grade social studies in DeKalb County. And what I want to do today is create a fairly short tutorial video on Verge. Now if you visit my channel on YouTube, you'll notice that I have created several videos on Verge, but what this video is going to pertain to is specifically using Verge as a tool of assessment. Basically, how can I, collect data, track and monitor the progress of my students? And I'm going to show you using Verge. So at first, what I would recommend is that we start out broad. I want to see the big picture of data. And what you can do there is go to your home page, and then you have your main tabs up top. You're going to click on Your Students. So under Your Students, this is very direct. It is basically all of your students. But what is this important for? This is important if you are meeting as a team. So you're meeting with all your content teachers about all your students who are on Verge. Because since this year is the first year that we're starting virtually, the first thing we've got to figure out is who is online, who can access the assignments that they have to do through Verge. And this is the best way to see it. This shows us when the student was on Verge in general, just in general, when they were on last. And I can see just by looking at my first student, that student was on an hour ago. So what you want to do with this information is you want to go through and you want to look for any dates that stand out. And a date that would stand out would be basically when you see they last accessed Verge in a month that either we were not in school, like June or July during the summer, or if you look something like April 13th, that shows me that that student has not been on Verge since last school year. And so that's definitely something we need to write down. So as a team, I would write down any student that has information that shows up like that. So we know, wow, that student has not been on Verge at all, and we need to contact their parents as soon as possible. Okay, so how can we hone it in a little bit more? Let's almost like zoom in and get finer details. We can do that by going over here with courses. So I could click a course, and again in Verge, courses are not your class period. A course is just all the students that fit under that category. Because I teach gifted and high achieving students, I have two courses. I have all my gifted students under one course and all my high achieving students under another. So I'm going to click my high achieving students. Now, this information is not necessarily important to my team anymore. This information is important to me for my class, because now this shows me when the student was last on for my Verge page, specifically to my content. It will also show me the number of tasks that they have completed. So this is the second week of school. They get 3 assignments each week, and I see that right now the student has only completed 2. Information that should stick out to you here is if you ever see the word never. That's not a good sign. That either means that the student has not been working on your assignments or does not know that he has or she has assignments that need to be completed. And so sometimes you need to look at both lists that you created with your team. Compare. Do you have any students on the big list? In general, they haven't been on Verge. But then sometimes you're going to notice, oh, wait, I noticed that this student has accessed Verge this year, but the student has not accessed my Verge page. And so now I need to specifically talk to that student because that pertains to just my class. And that's how you would use this tab under Your Students. All right, so let's say now we know who's on, we know they're completing assignments, but I want to look at the details. Maybe what grade did they get on the assignment? I need to go back and I need to figure out, what feedback did I give that student? Maybe I told them something wrong, or maybe I didn't give them feedback and that's why they didn't change it, or they keep making the same mistake over and over again. So to find your more specific details, you're going to have to go to a course. So let's go to our courses, and I'm going to use the high achieving course. So again, this is going to give me all the students who fit as high achievers. And so it gives me a new tab, or a new bar of tabs, and the most important thing that you want to do for assessment is go to 360 degrees reports. Under 360 degrees reports, there are 3 categories of information you can look at. You can look at the student's activity, you can look at the student's progress, meaning how many assignments have they done, how many resources have they clicked on or utilized, and then finally their overall grade. So let's start with activity. Why is this important information? Activity is great because it shows you the average duration. That would be very helpful if I choose a specific day and I want to focus on how these students did. I want to collect data on how the students did just on one assignment on a particular day. I can do that looking at activity because that information would show me, okay, I created an assignment that I thought should take the average student about 15 to 20 minutes. But I'm seeing on average, it is taking the students 45 minutes to an hour. Something should go off where you're saying, that's not necessarily right. So you need to start checking yourself. Maybe maybe a link in your assignment isn't working. Maybe a graph didn't show up and they're having to search for it. Or maybe, this week has been rough on Verge. The server has been going. It's been crashing a lot. So maybe that's been happening. And maybe you need to extend the due date to make it fair on all students. So this is a great tool to kind of monitor just time use. And are the students, appropriately using their time on the assessment or assignment? All right. The next category we're going to look at, to me, is the most important, and it's progress. At first, it's going to give us just two chunks of information: activities completed and resources visited. If I want to be more specific, though, I could choose a specific student. But if I wanted to be even more specific, let's say, remember, at first Verge just shows you every single student. Under 360 degrees reports, what's nice about this now is now I can categorize or sort the students by their actual class. Unfortunately, I'm looking at the numbers, you will notice none of them say first period or second period. Unfortunately, this is just how Verge creates their classes. Section 16, as I can see, is the lowest number, so that is actually my first period. But don't just take my word for it, because there have been some problems. Some people will go to, let's say, their section 21, which should be their second period, but there are students that are both second and third. And for some reason, that's a mix-up on Verge's part. And so that's something important, though. If you were to just give an assignment to, let's say, a class period, that student who was in the wrong class will not get it. But let's say, and I have verified, I've checked everything, and I know section 16 is my first period. So I click on that, and now it's just information based on my students in first period. And now I'm going to click on the first student. What's nice about this is, as I said, it shows you, the number of activities they've completed, and it shows you the number of resources they've accessed. But the other important information that's very vital to assessment and checking on our students is it shows us every single grade that we've given the student. And so this, because Infinite Campus and Verge do not communicate with each other, this is how you have to find your grades. So when you're plugging in your grades and you're starting to go week by week and trying to get these grades into Infinite Campus, this is the best way to look for just one student. And you can get the whole picture of all their assignments and all the feedback that you've given. And one thing on grading, and when we talk about assessment and feedback, it's very important that you use both forms of feedback when you assess a student's work. Yes, you need to give them a numerical value, because if you don't give them a numerical value, it won't show up in the gradebook on Verge. So that's very important. But the other thing that's important is using that feedback box. Now that we have the ability to type out our responses and it doesn't take as long as handwriting them feedback, we need to utilize this, especially if you start seeing students who are making the same mistake. It's made it very easy on me that I can just, copy a phrase or a little, reminder that I see a lot of students who are making the same mistake. Just make it a generic reminder and just paste it down in that feedback section. That way you can at least say, I communicated, I tried to make sure that their misunderstandings were cleared up, and I did the best to fully explain why they got that grade. So those are two things that I really would encourage. Use the numerical value and the actual written feedback comments. And then, of course, the last thing, and make sure you use the arrow to go back this way or it'll send you back to the overview page. The last thing is grades. So if I were to click on grades and then I were to say, go to my first period again, and I want to look at that first student, I can see based on the grades that he has submitted, it will show me an overall average grade. And so that's about it. That's how we can use Verge as a tool for assessment, looking at it in a broad spectrum all the way to very specific details. Thank you.